On that October morning in Chicago, Lake Michigan's surface gleamed silver outside the window. Margaret Wilson stood holding a freshly poured cup of coffee, looking down at the city from her 12th-floor apartment. She spent her days working from home as a graphic designer, and she particularly treasured these quiet Saturday morning moments. The phone's ring shattered the silence. Seeing Lisa displayed on the screen, Margaret felt a faint unease. Weekend calls from her sister usually meant some kind of favor. "Good morning, Maggie. How's your schedule today?" Lisa's voice carried its usual brightness mixed with something that sounded hurried. "Nothing special planned." "What's wrong?" Margaret settled into a chair and sipped her coffee. "Actually, could you watch Emma today? David's company has an important event, and we absolutely have to attend together. I don't think we'll be back until evening." Margaret sighed inwardly. Since her sister's remarriage 2 years ago, such requests had occurred about once a month, but recently they'd become weekly. Emma was Lisa's daughter from her previous marriage, now 6 years old. Lisa didn't like to talk much about the relationship between Emma and David, her new stepfather. "Of course, that's fine. Emma's a sweet child, she's always welcome," Margaret replied. Indeed, time with her niece was precious to her. Having a child's laughter echo through her solitary life felt comforting. "Thank you, you're really saving me. I think we'll arrive in about an hour." After hanging up, Margaret did some quick tidying and prepared Emma's favorite crayons and drawing paper. Lisa's husband, David Harrison, was an elite executive at a major financial firm. He had an 8-year-old son, Jake, from his previous marriage. On the surface, they appeared to be an ideal blended family, but Margaret harbored some indefinable unease. At the appointed time, the apartment doorbell rang. When Margaret opened the door, Lisa stood there holding Emma's small hand. Lisa had once been bright and lively, but lately she often wore an expression as if something was casting a shadow over her. "Aunt Maggie," Emma greeted in a small voice. She used to bound up with energetic greetings, but today she seemed somehow withdrawn. Looking at Lisa's face, Margaret caught her breath. Around her left cheekbone was a blue bruise that couldn't be completely hidden even with light makeup. "Lisa, what happened to your face?" "Oh, this? I fell down the stairs last night. I was trying to hurry down in the dark, so foolish of me." Lisa tried to laugh it off, but her smile looked unnatural. Emma clung to her mother's leg. "Mommy, don't go," she said in a trembling little voice. "It's okay, Emma. Have fun with Aunt Maggie. Mommy will come pick you up tonight." Lisa stroked her daughter's hair, but her hand seemed to be trembling slightly too. "Are you really okay? If you're having any trouble, call me anytime." Margaret placed her hand on her sister's arm. I'm fine. You worry too much, Maggie." Lisa quickly kissed Emma and walked down the hallway without looking back. When the door closed, Emma's expression darkened all at once. Margaret knelt down to meet her niece's eye level. "Let's do something fun today, Emma. What would you like to do?" Emma nodded slightly, but her eyes held shadows too heavy for a 6-year-old child. "Shall we go to the zoo, Emma?" Margaret suggested brightly. Lincoln Park Zoo was their favorite place. Emma used to jump up and down shouting, "Yay," but today's reaction was somehow different. "Is that okay? Doesn't it cost money?" Emma asked in a small voice. Margaret was puzzled. "Of course it's okay. The zoo is free, and I enjoy going with you." "Thank you, Aunt Maggie. Thank you for always being so kind to me." Emma bowed politely. The gesture was too mature for a 6-year-old, as if she were afraid of something. While getting ready, Emma was unusually well behaved. When putting on her shoes, when putting on her coat, she repeated "thank you" after each action. While Margaret went to get her bag from another room, Emma sat motionless on the sofa like a statue, waiting. I'm sorry for being a bother, Emma suddenly murmured. Why would you think you're a bother? You're not a bother at all, Emma. Margaret turned around in surprise. But it's hard work when I'm here, isn't it? Mommy always says so. Emma's voice was barely audible. Margaret's heart ached. Emma, listen. You are a very precious person. I enjoy being with you, and you're not hard work at all. Do you understand? Emma nodded slightly, but her expression showed no real relief. On the train to the zoo, Emma sat by the window, staring intently at the scenery outside. While other children chattered noisily, she alone was unusually quiet. Margaret tried to engage her in conversation several times, but Emma's responses were short, and she seemed absent-minded. When they arrived at the zoo, Emma's expression brightened a little. Still, she lacked her former innocence and seemed somehow wary. They first headed to the lion enclosure. A male lion was sunbathing with a female lion and two young cubs. While other visitors exclaimed, "What a cute family," Emma stood transfixed in front of the cage. Does the daddy lion ever stop liking the baby lions? Emma suddenly asked. Why do you ask? Margaret knelt down to meet Emma's eye level. What if the babies aren't really his own children? Margaret gasped. Emma, in the animal world, the whole family protects each other. The daddy lion takes very good care of his children too. Really? A faint glimmer of hope appeared in Emma's eyes. Really? Love has nothing to do with blood relationships. Emma continued to gaze silently at the lion family. Margaret understood all too painfully why this 6-year-old child would ask such questions. At the elephant exhibit, they watched a mother elephant gently caressing her calf with her trunk. Emma stared at the scene intently. Are you hungry? Shall we get some ice cream? Margaret suggested, but Emma shook her head frantically. No, no. It costs money. Emma, I want to buy you ice cream. Don't worry about the money. But Uncle David said that if money gets spent on me, it causes problems for Mommy. Margaret's heart began racing. When did he say that? Emma covered her mouth with her hand. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. It's okay, Emma. Let's keep it our secret. But let's get that ice cream. In the end, Emma chose vanilla ice cream, but even while eating it, she seemed restless. After eating about half, she tried to stop, saying, I'm full now. You don't have to finish it all. But since we got it, why don't you eat a little more? Will I get in trouble if I don't finish it? Emma asked in a trembling voice. No one will get angry with you. I promise. Even so, Emma ate every last bite, as if fulfilling a duty. In the afternoon, when the two returned to the apartment, they decided to try making cookies together. Margaret laid out the ingredients and helped Emma put on an apron. Today, let's make chocolate chip cookies, your favorite, Emma. At first, Emma seemed to enjoy herself. She tackled the tasks of sifting flour and mixing butter with sugar with a serious expression. However, when it came time to mix in the chocolate chips, Emma's hand slipped and the flour bag fell to the floor. The moment white powder scattered across the kitchen floor, Emma's face went pale. I'm sorry. Emma crouched on the floor, covered her head with both hands, and began trembling. Don't hit me. Please don't hit me. Margaret was shocked. Emma, it's okay. No one's going to hit you. It was just an accident. But I made a mess. Whenever I make a mess, Uncle David, Emma's voice broke with tears. Emma, look at me. Margaret crouched down and gently embraced her trembling niece. No one's going to scold you or hit you. Flour can be cleaned up easily. Emma clung to Margaret while crying. She could feel the small body trembling with fear. Is Aunt Maggie's house safe? Emma whispered. Of course it is. You're completely safe here, Emma. Margaret gently stroked her back. Really? You won't get angry even if I'm loud. You won't hit me even if I make a mess. I will never get angry or hit you. I promise. Emma continued crying for a while before finally calming down. They cleaned up the floor together and resumed making cookies. This time, there was a bit more naturalness in Emma's movements. Emma, if anything scary ever happens, you can always talk to Aunt Maggie, Margaret said while rolling out the cookie dough. But I'm not supposed to tell. Who said you're not supposed to tell? Emma fell silent. But that silence told the whole story. While the cookies baked in the oven, they sat on the sofa watching TV. A children's program was playing, but Emma didn't seem very interested. Aunt Maggie, Emma called in a small voice. What is it? If Mommy is in trouble, could you help her? A sharp pain shot through Margaret's chest. Of course, Emma. I'll protect both Mommy and you. Really? Really? Family members protect each other. Emma smiled with relief, but Margaret didn't miss the deep sadness that dwelt behind that smile, sadness too profound for a 6-year-old. Looking at the clock, she saw it was past 5 in the afternoon. There was only about an hour left before Lisa would come to pick Emma up. Margaret was beginning to understand the true nature of the fear Emma was feeling, and it might be far more serious than she had imagined. When the clock hands pointed to 6 in the afternoon, Margaret stood up and called to Emma. The sweet aroma of freshly baked cookies still lingered in the room, but in contrast to that warm atmosphere, Emma's expression grew increasingly dark. Emma, it's almost time to go home. Mommy will come to pick you up, so let's pack your things. At that moment, Emma's face turned deathly pale. As if all the blood had drained from her at once, her small lips began to tremble. No, Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Emma. The moment Margaret tried to approach, Emma suddenly burst into tears. No. I don't want to go home. I want to stay here. Emma crouched on the floor, covered her face with both hands, and sobbed. That crying was too desperate for a 6-year-old child's tears, and it gripped Margaret's heart. This wasn't mere willfulness or being spoiled. It was crying that came from pure terror. Emma, Emma, Margaret hurriedly knelt down and placed her hand on her trembling niece's shoulder. What's wrong? What happened? I don't want to go home, I don't want to go home. Emma prostrated herself on the floor, curling up as if trying to hide. Please don't make me go back. Margaret lifted Emma gently, her heart breaking. The small body was shaking with fear. It's okay, Emma. Calm down. Aunt Maggie is here. But I have to go back. Mommy's coming to get me, Emma said, her face a mess of tears. Why don't you want to go home? You'll get to see Mommy. Emma shook her head while crying. I can't say. I'm not allowed to tell. Who said you're not allowed to tell? Emma fell silent. But that silence was the answer itself. Margaret waited quietly. She decided not to rush, but to wait until Emma was ready to speak. Uncle David, Emma finally answered in a small voice. He said if I told on him, something worse would happen to Mommy. The blood drained from Margaret's face. Emma, what aren't you allowed to tell? It's a secret. But I can't stand it anymore. Emma wiped her tears while looking straight at Margaret. Aunt Maggie, come to my house. Then you'll understand. Margaret held her breath for a moment. Emma's eyes held a determination far beyond her years. All right. Let's go together. Hand in hand, they left Margaret's apartment. Chicago's evening streets were beginning to glow with orange streetlights. Emma gripped Margaret's hand tightly in her small one. Are you scared? Margaret asked, and Emma shook her head. I'm okay because I'm with Aunt Maggie. On the train, Emma began speaking in a small voice while gazing out the window. Uncle David is very kind when other people are around. But inside the house, he's different. To Mommy, and to me. How is he different? He yells loudly. And Emma paused as if choosing her words carefully. He pushes Mommy and grabs her arms. Margaret clenched her fists tightly. So that's how Mommy got the bruise on her face. Yes. But always in places where people won't see them. Mommy says she fell down, but Emma's voice trembled. When I try to protect her, it gets worse. When they arrived at the upscale residential area where Lisa lived, the sun had completely set. Walking between the orderly rows of mansions, Margaret thought about the darkness hidden behind superficial beauty. Over there, Emma pointed to a house that was indeed impressive. A 2-story white mansion with a well-maintained garden. Warm light leaked from the windows, and from the outside, it looked like the symbol of a happy home. What should we do? Margaret asked, and Emma answered without hesitation. You can see from the living room window. The curtain is slightly open. They went around to the side of the house. Just as Emma had said, there was a large living room window with a small gap in the curtains. Margaret felt her heartbeat quicken as she approached the window. Look, Emma whispered. The moment Margaret peered through the gap in the curtains, her heart nearly stopped. In the living room, David was pressing Lisa against the wall. Lisa's face was contorted with fear, and she was nodding slightly. From David's lip movements, it was clear he was forcefully lecturing her about something. David's hand gripping Lisa's arm was obviously tight enough to cause pain. Meanwhile, Jake sat on the sofa playing a game as if nothing was happening. His indifference revealed that this scene was routine for him. It's always like this, Emma explained in a tearful voice. But it's worse when I'm there. When I try to protect Mommy, Uncle David gets angrier. Margaret took out her smartphone with trembling hands. She needed to capture this as evidence. After taking several photos, she hugged Emma. Emma, thank you for telling me. That took a lot of courage. But if he sees this, Mommy will be in more trouble, Emma murmured anxiously. It's okay. This time it's the adults' turn to protect Mommy. Margaret sent Lisa a message, come outside right now. I'm here with Emma. A few minutes later, the front door opened quietly. The moment Lisa showed her face, Margaret gasped. The area around her left eye was swollen, and the corner of her lip was cut. It was far worse than the bruise she'd seen that morning. Maggie? Why are you here? Lisa's voice was shaking. Emma told me. Get in the car. But David will. Right now, Margaret took her sister's hand. Emma, come on. The moment all three got into the car, the front door burst open. David appeared and shouted loudly when he spotted their car. Lisa! Where do you think you're going? Come back here. Margaret quickly started the engine. Looking at David's anger-twisted face in the rearview mirror, she pressed the accelerator. Mommy, Emma called from the back seat. It's okay now. Lisa gripped her daughter's hand while tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry, Emma. Mommy was weak and couldn't protect you. That's not true, Mommy. You tried your best. But now Aunt Maggie is with us. Margaret saw David in the rearview mirror, still standing in front of the house, shaking his fist. He looked like he might chase after their car. Let's stay at my apartment tonight, Margaret said firmly. I'll never let you go back to that house again. For the first time, Lisa showed an expression of real relief. And Emma's small hand touched Margaret's shoulder. Thank you, Aunt Maggie. I finally got to tell someone. When they returned to Margaret's apartment, the three sat quietly on the sofa. Lisa held an ice pack to her cheek, and Emma rested her head on her mother's lap. A heavy silence filled the room, but it wasn't the silence of fear, it was the quiet of relief at finally reaching a safe place. "Emma, you were very brave," Margaret said while preparing 3 cups of hot cocoa. "Thank you for telling me the truth." Emma smiled slightly, but anxiety still remained in her eyes. "Uncle David is probably angry. He might come to pick me up at school tomorrow." "He won't," Margaret stated firmly. "I'll never let that man near either of you again." Lisa slowly raised her face. The swelling around her left eye had gotten even worse. "Maggie, I don't know what to do. I don't have money or anywhere to go." "Don't worry. First, let's rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out a proper plan." Emma looked up at her mother. "Mommy, you should tell her everything. Aunt Maggie will understand." Lisa let out a long sigh. "You're right. No more secrets." Margaret sat next to Lisa and took her sister's hand. "Tell me from the beginning. When did it start?" "About 6 months after we got married," Lisa began in a trembling voice. "At first, he just criticized my cooking or said I was too lenient with Emma's discipline. But it gradually escalated." "Specifically how?" "He tells Emma every day that she's not his real daughter. He says raising a child with no blood relation is a burden and you're a failure from your mother's previous husband." Lisa's voice broke. "He says it in front of Emma. To a 6-year-old child." Emma added in a small voice, "The food is different too. Jake gets steak and hamburgers, but sometimes I only get bread and soup. He says there's no need to spoil her." Margaret's fists trembled. "And you didn't say anything?" "I did." Lisa showed emotion for the first time. "But when I did," she rolled up her sleeve to show her arm. There were multiple blue bruises. "This is what happened. He targets places people can't see. He's very clever about it." "What about the police?" "I tried to call them once. But David noticed, and," Lisa shuddered. "That night was the worst yet. In front of Emma, he pushed me to the floor and kicked me. Then he told Emma, 'This is what happens when you try to protect your mother. If anyone talks next time, it'll be much worse.'" Emma clung to her mother and began crying. "I thought Mommy might get hurt even worse because of me, so I became too scared to say anything." Margaret stood up and paced around the room. "Why didn't you come to me for help? I'm your sister. David told me your family was against our marriage from the start. If you ask for help now, they'll just say you brought it on yourself." Lisa wiped her tears. "Besides, I was ashamed. I felt pathetic for choosing such a man." "You fool," Margaret hugged her sister. "Family is family no matter what. I'm always on your side. But David can hire lawyers. He has money and connections. I have nothing." "That's not true." Margaret took out her smartphone. "I have the photos I took today. And Emma's testimony." Emma looked up. "There's more. I have a video of Uncle David hitting Mommy." "What?" Both adults turned around simultaneously. "Before, when I wanted to help Mommy, I secretly filmed it with my phone. But I was afraid of getting caught, so I hid it in the cloud." Margaret was astounded. "Emma, that's important evidence. You did something very brave." "I wanted to protect Mommy. But I couldn't do anything by myself," Emma cried. "That's why I wanted to ask Aunt Maggie for help." Lisa stroked Emma's hair. "My daughter is so small, but she's much stronger than I am." Margaret steeled her resolve. "First thing tomorrow morning, we'll consult with a lawyer. Then we'll apply for a restraining order. But the money—" "Don't worry. I'll pay for it," Margaret declared. "Besides, there are support systems for domestic violence victims. I'll look into it." Just then, Margaret's cell phone rang. An unknown number appeared on the screen. "You don't have to answer," Lisa said in a trembling voice. "It's probably David." The phone stopped ringing but immediately started again. On the third call, Margaret answered. "Hello. It's me. Let me talk to Lisa." David's voice was shaking with anger. "Lisa is resting now. If you have business, I'll listen. I don't know what you're scheming, but Lisa is my wife. Don't take her away without permission. Lisa is here of her own free will. And I know you've been violent with your wife." On the other end of the phone, David clicked his tongue. "Do you have proof?" "I've never laid a hand on her. Lisa is lying. I have photographs. And I have a witness." Margaret looked at Emma. "Who's going to believe the babbling of a 6-year-old brat? Besides, I have an excellent lawyer. I can shut you people up in no time." "Try it." Margaret hung up. Lisa said with a pale face, "He'll really come. David always follows through on what he says he'll do." "It's okay," Margaret answered resolutely. "This time we're the ones who are prepared." She dialed the police number. "Police. I need protection for domestic violence victims." While she was on the phone, Emma snuggled up to Lisa. "Mommy, it's okay now. Aunt Maggie will protect us." Lisa held her daughter close and felt hope for the first time in a long while. For so long she had felt like she was in a tunnel with no way out, but finally she could see light. "Thank you, Maggie," Lisa said to her sister. "For saving us." "This is just the beginning," Margaret replied as she hung up the phone. "But this time you're not alone. Let's fight together, all three of us." Outside the window, Chicago's night scenery sparkled quietly. The three women, though of different ages, shared the same determination. Tonight, they had taken the first step toward the new life that would begin tomorrow. Margaret thought as she prepared a late dinner in the kitchen. The battle with David wouldn't be easy. But she was prepared to face any difficulty to protect her family. And when she thought of the courage shown by a small child like Emma, she as an adult couldn't give up. In the living room, Lisa and Emma quietly held each other close. Both were exhausted, but their expressions held a peace that had been lost for a long time. 3 months later, on a certain morning, children's laughter echoed through Margaret's spacious apartment. The sound of Emma struggling to flip pancakes in the kitchen mixed with Lisa's gentle laughter. "Aunt Maggie, I did it." Emma brought over a plate proudly. The shape was a little lopsided, but her smile was incomparably brighter than before. "You did it perfectly," Margaret praised sincerely. "Emma, you really have a talent for cooking." Lisa smiled as she sat at the dining table. "Lately, this child wants to try everything. She used to be afraid of failing and wouldn't try anything." Since that night, the three women's lives had changed dramatically. With the help of the lawyer Margaret hired, the restraining order was quickly approved. The photos of Lisa's face and body, and the video Emma had recorded, became decisive evidence. David initially showed a willingness to fight in court, but there was no way to argue against the evidence. "What are your plans for today?" Margaret asked, and Lisa looked slightly nervous. "I have an interview. At an accounting firm." Lisa took a deep breath. "I'm worried because I've been out of work for a while." "It's okay, Mommy," Emma squeezed her mother's hand. "You're very smart." When the divorce was finalized, Lisa simultaneously began her journey toward economic independence. David was legally required to pay alimony and child support for Emma, but Lisa was determined to build a new life without relying on him. "How is Emma's counseling going?" Margaret asked gently. "She's doing much better," Lisa answered. "The therapist says children's recovery is faster than adults think." Indeed, Emma's transformation was remarkable. For the first few weeks, she would wake up crying in the middle of the night, but now she could sleep peacefully. At school too, she could play normally with friends, and her grades had improved. In the afternoon, when Lisa returned from her interview, her expression was bright. How did it go? Margaret and Emma asked simultaneously. I got the job. Lisa reported happily. I start work next month. All three hugged each other in celebration. Emma jumped up and down saying, Mommy, that's amazing. I'll work hard too. While preparing dinner, news about David came on TV. He was suspected of involvement in fraudulent trading at his financial company and was currently under investigation. What goes around comes around, Lisa murmured quietly. But it has nothing to do with us anymore. That's right. Let's keep moving forward, Margaret replied. At that moment, Emma clung to Margaret's arm. Aunt Maggie, thank you. You're like a real father to us. Margaret's chest grew warm. Emma, family isn't about blood relationships. It's about people who support each other and care about each other. I understand, Emma nodded. The three of us are a real family. Lisa looked at the two of them with tears in her eyes. Maggie, without you, we might still be in that hell. No, Margaret shook her head. It was Emma's courage that started everything. And you stood up in the end too. I just helped out. Outside the window, Chicago's night scenery sparkled beautifully. The three held hands and stood by the window, gazing at the city lights. Shall we go on a picnic tomorrow? Margaret suggested. Yes. Emma answered energetically. This time I'll make the sandwiches. I'm looking forward to it, Lisa smiled. The three embraced. The wounds of the past hadn't completely healed, but here was a new form of family filled with love and trust. Beyond blood relationships, true family bonds had been born here. No matter how harsh the outside world might be, warm light would continue to shine in this small apartment, along with the story of hope that three women had woven together.